Sarah Buie. I'm the sales manager on the Keri Shull Team, and we are here at the Barns at Hamilton Station with Melinda Solley and Angela Decint. These two are experts in real estate, have been in the industry for decades at this point. We won't age anyone. And we are here to talk about moving into an area, Personville and Leesburg specifically, but areas that we may not be familiar with, especially if you're moving from an urban center. So just wanted to paint a picture of what it's like. You two both grew up and have lived around here for many years, and so they're very familiar with the area. We're going to talk about what it's like to live out here. So we'll start with Leesburg. Angela, you've been out here for, you said 3 years?
I've been out here, I lived here for several years, but I've been coming to Leesburg and Loudoun County for many years as a cyclist. I come out here to do a lot of bike rides, and I love it.
Okay, amazing. So Leesburg, if you had to give just a general impression, how would you describe Leesburg to somebody who's never been there?
Oh gosh, I think the appeal for me, and I think it would be appealing to most people, is you have a small town, historic, charming feel, but yet you're super close to DC, and you have all the major stores that you could want or need. So I think that's super appealing.
What are some restaurants? Are there vineyards? What do you do in Leesburg?
Oh, I eat, I drink wine, I bike, I do yoga, but I have some favorites. So, in historic downtown Leesburg, I love to go to the wine kitchen, just feels super local. And then of course, there's a new place called Echelon Wine Bar. That's great as well. They offer various events with like wine tastings from different regions. That's really cool. And then when I'm out cycling, I like to finish up at either Beaufort's Biscuits, which is right on Main Street, so you can get like old style country biscuits with like fried chicken or eggs and ham. And then South Street Under is also one of my favorites. And of course, you can't go wrong with Fireworks Pizza as well. Yeah.
Good. Carb load after the big bike ride.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. And what is the housing market like right now?
So the housing market, what we've seen, and we started to see this even pre-pandemic, but I think people really yearned for a simpler life, but yet still being accessible to, get to DC for work. So people were moving out here, and also because it was still very affordable. This area is the #1 tech corridor in the country, so you can choose from having housing that's part of a HOA community, or you can have a property that has some land of it, some land.
Right. And you had talked about one of the bars, Echelon, is that right? Mm-hmm. It was like a New York City vibe.
Yeah, actually Melinda and I were talking earlier, and she was the one who mentioned, but when I had gone there, that was like my first impression was like, I don't feel like I'm in this historic downtown Leesburg, 45 minutes from DC. I felt like this was just a top-rated place that could be in any major city in the country. Yeah. So I think what's appealing for Leesburg is its affordability, space, and accessibility to major shopping, outdoor activities, and yet you can still get to DC for work, and it's not far from the new metro that's opening up in Ashburn as well.
Cool. And so if you're coming from an urban center, there are still places that you would feel like you had a good vibe and like fun things to do. It wouldn't be all that different.
It's really not all that different. And even for somebody who's looking for walkability, there's some great development that's been occurring right around historic downtown Leesburg. So if you wanted to still, be walkable and not have to drive, especially if you have the flexibility of working from home, absolutely, you could just live right there in downtown Leesburg and then walk to some of these great bars, restaurants, breweries, shops. And if you're active, then the W&D trail runs right through it all the way out to Percival, which, Melinda's pretty familiar with.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, and so let's move to Percival, and then we'll just go back and forth. I'm curious, what would your impression of Percival be if you were describing it to somebody that's from the outside?
Well, it's so funny because I lived in Loudoun County for 15 years before moving back to Arlington, and then just kept feeling this pull to come back out.
Yeah.
And didn't know that I was going to come quite this far, but it's the country feel and the charm. Right. It's such a nice neighborhood feel. The neighbors are so friendly, and now there's just so much to do. Excuse me, like Angela mentioned in Leesburg, some of those things are coming out to Personville, and you have a lot of farm to table experiences.
Oh, cool.
And the downtown's growing. And of course, you know, in the last decade, the wineries, you know, now we are the East Coast of the, you know, wine world. So it's just been really amazing.
That's awesome. And so would you say that it's more of this vibe when you're going out and you're looking for something to do? Is it the vineyards? Is it something like this, the barns? Is it more of like the downtown-y feel that Angela's talking about with the historic downtown?
So there is a historic downtown in Personville, and that's actually where the W&OD trail ends. It actually ends at the train station, which is still standing.
Yeah.
And that area, they're definitely revamping, and there's new restaurants coming into it. But I think that the draw is just like the outdoor availability. So so many new breweries and so many new wineries, the ability to hike, you know, we're close to Bear Chase Mountain. You actually can go just a little west of Percival and be at the Appalachian Trail. So a lot of folks, we see a lot of people come out from the city on the weekends and do their hiking and then stop at a bakery for, you know, some good little sweet treats or stop off for a gourmet burger.
Fun.
But what I love, and especially I feel like a lot of people, including myself during COVID, just really liked this. I would say, excuse me, I would say that a big draw was more space. So a lot of folks moving from Leesburg and Ashburn. So they were already out in Loudoun County and now they're making the push to Western Loudoun. So you're going from, you know, those planned communities, which still exist in Percival, but there's also families, you know, with 10 acres, 14 acres, horses, cattle, you know, pigs, chickens, like the whole thing. I do. I have 7 cows. So if anyone would have ever told me that I'd be living on a cow farm, I would have laughed all the way to the bank, but that is where I ended up, right? So, and it's just, you know, I said, like, it's just, I mean, the air is fresh and crisp and, you know, the sunsets and sunrises are to die for, and you know, we're right here by the Blue Ridge Mountains, and it's just, it's really gorgeous.
Yeah,
so.
I think a lot of people felt that during COVID is, you know, wanting to get out of an urban center, wanting to have more space, wanting to be around green and animals, and I think that there's definitely that appeal that's continued. And even people thinking about investing and buying a home that they can come out and have a retreat outside of the city. Do you feel like there's a market for that in these places where people are buying something that they can use as a vacation home or something that they can use as investment property, whether it's renting or through Airbnb?
I would say definitely in Percival because there's no hotel. So you have to go to Leesburg.
There's not even that many in Leesburg to begin with. I mean, you really have to go further in to do that. So I think, you know,
so the Airbnb is just, it's really,
it's big.
Right. So,
that's awesome.
Because people, you know, just think, again, being only an hour from DC, you have all these folks that have the money and they want to come out, but maybe they want to come out and enjoy a whole weekend, not just a day. So, you know, an Airbnb is fantastic. And then all the wineries and all the weddings that we do out here. So, you know, the ability to be able to house big groups and
cool. I might be putting you on the spot, but I'm curious if you guys have like a favorite success story of somebody that's been moving out here. It was like a life change for them and you helped them find a home here.
So actually one of the first couples that I met right when I moved out was on Memorial Day weekend. And they were about to become empty nesters. And they had been living in Ashburn and the Broadlands for 15 years and liked it. They had 3 big dogs and they were just tired of having neighbors. So we met at a brewery, you know, skip the coffee shop. So let's meet at Harvest Gap. It's one of the best breweries. I was like, it's a great sunset, so we'll meet around 4 and have some beers and hang out.
That's great.
And you know, we just really hit it off, and they didn't really know where they wanted to be or whether they wanted new construction or, you know, an existing house. They had time. So we kind of looked at everything. And in fact, at Harvest Gap at the time, Evergreen was building a 15-home community across the street that they had just bought from a farmer. And so we looked at that and they decided they wanted to move sooner. So they ended up on 8 acres out in Round Hill, sitting on top of the mountainside. And, you know, they still, you know, Michelle will call and say, yeah, the horses were out. And she said it was just so fun decorating for Christmas. It was like a whole new experience getting the house up and ready. So,
very cool.
And they've just been loving it ever since. So her husband, she works from home and her husband works at Tyson's, and because of COVID only has to go into the office 3 days a week. But he said it's definitely, even the drive is nice because when you leave Tyson's and you're headed out this way, you know that you're headed, you know, home for a peaceful surrounding.
So that's awesome. Very cool. How many people you guys are talking to that want, it's what you just said, that are looking at existing homes or new construction, is that a conversation that you're having with people that are moving out of the city?
All the time. So and again, like Angela mentioned earlier, you just get more house for your dollar. So I think that that's, if I said if I had my family, if I still had young children, is that you're going to get a lot more house for your dollar. Yeah. So, and there are new construction opportunities. Okay. So, and a lot more than even a decade ago. So we're seeing, families, obviously just the whole thing, farmers are getting older and they want to sell the land, and big developers are coming out and developing that. And there's just really something for everyone if you want. Some people get afraid because they have young children and they're like, I want my kids to be able to walk next door. And I said, well, you're all going to be on a 5-acre plot, so the walk's a little bit longer, but everybody's still out, and you can bicycle and play hockey in the street because it's just you and the other 10 neighbors that live there. So definitely that family community as well.
Yeah, that's great. Are you seeing new construction in Leesburg?
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely. I mean, there is still so much undeveloped land here, and so you have developers that are coming out, and they're offering a wide variety of either single-family homes, but then there's townhomes that will have elevators. So you do have a lot of opportunities to meet the needs of a buyer that wants more space than maybe the urban setting that they're in. And I think one of the things that COVID has really opened our eyes to is that, we love being with our family, but we want to be with our family with more space, right? Yeah. So how can we accomplish that? So we move further west, so things are a bit more affordable. You can get a bigger house, so everybody has their space. So if you've got kids that are having to be at, virtual learning at home, or, now the shift has been with a lot of employers, people aren't returning to work. So you have people that need the home office, but you have the outdoor space. So they can go outside and run around. And, Loudoun is known for excellent schools as well. They're one of the top rated school districts in the entire country. So that still lets people feel comfortable that, hey, I don't need to be so close in to be able to provide a quality education for my children. And then yet it still is accessible to folks that have to go into DC once or twice a week, and you can get high-speed internet out here. We're not totally in the sticks.
That was going to be my next question.
You can do that. So absolutely, I think it's just really. I think it's also shown us that life is short and people's lives can be so stressful. And if you have the opportunity to live in a place where, as you mentioned with your client, when they're driving home to this peaceful area, like that's just something that is worth so much. Like that's a moment like you want to be able to enjoy those times with your family and then friends, because you all are, it's a community. It's a small town feel.
Okay, rapid fire?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. Favorite restaurant?
Mine would be Magnolia's at the Mill, which is in downtown Purcellville, right next to the train station, and it's actually in an old mill.
Oh, I love that.
And they renovated it and turned it into a great restaurant, and it's farm to table. Cool. And they have great brunch, and it's just a great place to hang out. And they're going to have a little competition. Ooh. There's a new restaurant that's being built that is an Irish European bistro bar.
Fun.
And all we've been able to do so far is peek in the window and see all of the gorgeous tapestry on the wall and such. So
cool.
But yeah, I would say Magnolia's for sure.
Okay. Leesburg?
Oh, the wine kitchen. I love places that are small, intimate, and cozy, and they have, farm to table food. I love supporting local, farms, and the menu changes all the time. So that is my favorite go-to place for that very reason. Yeah.
Winery?
Oh, there's so many. The Barns at Hamilton Station, for sure. And then there's several others. As a cyclist, one of the fun things that I like to do is, plan a bike ride in the morning with my friends, and then we'll finish up at a winery to enjoy the afternoon. So. Yeah, there's some great ones out here, whether it's Bro, whether it's 8 Chains, Duquesne, the list just goes on and on. Yeah.
Melinda, what's yours?
There's so many. So because I've lived here my whole life.
Yeah.
So 20 years ago, you had about 3 choices, and now you have over 30. So the Barns was the first place that I joined as a member before I actually moved out here, because I love the staff and the wine's fantastic. Yeah. But I kind of pick my winery visits based on who's playing. So Loudoun County has a huge music presence. They also have a huge support for young musicians. So, of course, everyone has on their website who's playing what weekends. So we kind of decide where we're going to go and who we want to see. So
I love that.
And then it depends.
That's really
if it's
fun.
inside, there's some places that are quaint like this, and some places have better outdoor seating. And it's just shocking. The wine, the level of wine was two decades ago was barely worth drinking, and now we really do have some fabulous.
We can attest
fabulous
to
wine.
that.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Yes. Cheers to that. Yes. This isn't hard. Yeah. That's awesome. Breweries, because that's a big thing now too, right?
Yeah, it is, and I do enjoy a nice cold beer. Still, getting my taste for IPAs and craft beer, but I think Vanish is a lot of fun. And again, there are just so many, and even downtown Leesburg has several.
What's the vibe of Vanish?
Yeah, it's a big space. They'll have live music as well. It's just kind of a local place, and yeah, but you'll probably find me at a winery instead of a brewery. If I have friends that are going, I'll go, but.
Okay. We know your preference.
Yes.
Yeah, get it. Okay.
Yeah, I don't drink beer, so.
Yeah.
But the good thing is most breweries do serve like
wine?
ciders or seltzers or wine from local wineries. So Harvest Gap is definitely my favorite. It is a veteran-run brewery. It's fairly new. They just had their 1-year anniversary, I think, in September. And it's a mile from my house, so that's always a nice.
Always a perk.
Right. I was like, I need like a big golf cart because it's all down
I
a
just
dirt
imagine
road.
you going through
So-
like a cow pasture trying to get your way home. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because they had an 8-acre maze over
Yeah.
Halloween, and when we got to the end, when we were in the thick of the maze, I was like, "This is probably super close to my house because it was so big." They, the owners are young, and they have a family of 3, and
Cool.
so they raise pigs, and
Yeah.
but the sunset, so it's right where Personville hits Hillsborough. It's called the Gap.
Okay.
So they have the most beautiful sunsets in Loudoun County, and every once in a while you'll have guys hang glide, and they come in at sunset.
Fun.
And they definitely book, really good bands. But,
Cool.
yeah. So and there's Belly Love in downtown Percival. So if you're
Okay.
looking for a downtown feel where you can like walk around, that one's really good.
Yeah.
That's a brewery?
Belly Love.
Belly Love,
That's a great name.
Beer belly.
Yes, exactly.
Love that beer belly.
That's great.
That sounds like
Cool.
so much fun.
Yeah.
That's really fun.
And Harvest Gap is also super kid friendly, so they'll do like face painting and
nice.
Yeah.
and of course the coordinators, they had pick your pumpkins. So it's really it's great to see. You see a mix. You see people coming out from the city. You see locals like myself and our friends.
Yeah.
And then you see families coming out to meet, with other families
Sure.
and just enjoying picnics and
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun.
Cool. So I know that you have dealt with a lot of families that are starting their search in the Arlington area. It may even be starting in DC, and they're not as familiar with our area, or they've been in this area and they're feeling like they're getting priced out of Arlington even. What has been the trajectory of those people looking outside of Arlington? What's leading them to places like Leesburg and Purcellville?
I think it depends like where they are in their family and what's important. I mean, obviously one of the first things that we ask folks is, what's your goal and what are your deal breakers? So if you're a family of 4 and you have a price point that's just not going to work in Arlington, there are options, that can bring you further out. So in the beginning, I've been on Keri's team since 2012.
Yeah.
I'd meet with folks and they're like, yep, we're going to spend this much money and we want to be this close to the metro. And I'm like, well, no, we're going to end up out here and you might see a horse every once in a while.
Right.
That's the reality
Right,
check.
and exactly, right. Reality check right from the get-go. And those folks still live in their homes, and so happy, just so happy to, they just didn't know these places like existed, 10 years ago. I would say now, what I'm seeing more is folks that are in Ashburn and even Leesburg that have raised their children and now they're wanting to go further out. So it's now we want some land, we want more privacy, we don't need the neighborhood feel.
Yeah.
But it's out here too, so
Yeah.
it really just depends.
So, and this is sort of personal. I feel like I'm at that stage, right? Where I feel like if you had told me 10 years ago that I should live out here, I'd laugh at you and say, no, never, like over my dead body. There's no way I'm ever moving out. And I think whether it's COVID or my age, I think that people that are hitting their, mid 30s are like thinking that way of, oh, I want more space and I want to be somewhere that's a little more small town. And But I think that that can be a little daunting, especially if you're coming from an urban environment.
Sure.
And so what do you tell people? Like, do you tell them go hang out in those areas? Just come and hang out.
Yeah, and actually I can just share my personal experience. You know, I lived in a condominium in the city of Falls Church for almost 10 years. My daughter went to school there. And for me, like, I would only come out to Loudoun County and Leesburg, like, to do a bike ride on a Sunday morning. And even then, like, I was like, oh my God, it's so far. Am I there yet? Do I need to check my passport, right? And then as it was approaching to the time where my daughter was graduating from high school, and of course I was paying crazy money to live in the city of Falls Church, but I went there because, you know, it had great schools and it was close to where her father was. So I moved from the city of Falls Church out to Loudoun County because the cost of housing got so expensive in the city of Falls Church, and I wanted more green space. I wanted to be able to, you know, have a barbecue, you know, I couldn't do that in a condominium. And then with my partner being out here, it just made sense. And it was something that I discovered, and I felt it was truly a gem to be able to be out here with the green space that I wanted, that I needed, yet still be accessible to major shops. Like, literally the Target is 5 minutes away, Costco, getting to downtown Leesburg, and great restaurants. And I even felt, because I become accustomed to this pace of life, and when I would go back into like Arlington, it would just make me feel a little bit anxious, like the traffic, and I would look forward to the time when I could just drive back home and, you know, just relax a little bit more. So
That's awesome. If you are a client, you don't want to work with somebody who's just an Arlington expert or just an expert in Leesburg or Personville, right? Because if you do, that person is going to try to pigeonhole you into that area. Right. It is actually really important to work with somebody like you that is going to understand both of those markets, everything in between, because they will know the questions to ask. You guys know those questions that will guide the person to what they truly want.
Well,
right?
It's so funny because as buyer agents, we often get the question of how much business have you done in this neighborhood? Mm-hmm. And it's the first thing that the buyers are going to ask.
And that's
First-time
fair,
home buyers,
right?
Their parents are probably telling them, make sure you hire an agent that knows the neighborhood that you're looking at.
Yeah.
But like, honestly, if you've never bought before, you might not know the area that you're looking for. And it doesn't matter at the end of the day. What you need is a professional that's seasoned and has seen the ups and downs in several markets and can bring to the table options that you never even considered for yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that is the value, right, of working with this team who understands this entire region, and that expert can help guide your decision, right? And this is one of the biggest investments you're ever going to make in your life. And so having somebody that can be a confidant, that can understand that lifestyle, that's lived that themselves with both of you, that's the appeal. You've lived this transition from urban out to rural, everything in between. You understand what that feels like, and so you can absolutely help somebody with that journey.
I'll drink to that.
Drink to that. Cheers. Yeah.